Hello and welcome to a new Unreal Engine video, and today we're going to do a little bit of a showcase video. It's not going to be like the old prototyping or anything because I've been kind of distracted with some other things in real life and you know the gist of things. But what I wanted to show off was I was working with the Horror Engine, which is a free template on the marketplace. And I really liked their event system, but I didn't like how it was implemented. I wanted it to be a more of a controller, like an event controller that you can give components to other actors, where the event system in the horror engine seemed to be more of like a hard-coded system. It didn't seem flexible. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like how they did it. So I tried to create my own. And this project, it is available over on GitHub. I did make it public because I know a while back somebody asked for project files about something that I was working on, and I didn't really feel comfortable or confident giving out the project files because I don't know how people would react, and I don't know if if there's a bug, I'd feel bad about it. And this one, no, this one I was pretty happy about. There could be probably some tweaks around the edges, some bug fixing definitely could be. There's definitely bugs because if you mix and match components, especially the targeting component with the transform component, they don't tend to work all that smoothly together. That being said, you can trigger different events at different times, so you can stagger events, you can stop and start certain events dynamically. There's very little coding, or like not coding, but like blueprinting involved. The most that you have to do is just subscribe to an endpoint and then just, or bind to an endpoint and then just run with it. So I got this simple scene here just to demonstrate like something like what it has to offer or what I've been doing. So each one of these, there's various actors in the folder here that I have. So there's things, there's the main event controller, there's this event component, there's this interact component. These two are used by the event controller. So you only need to add the event controller onto whatever actor you're working with, and that's it. Everything is self-contained into this event controller. You don't need anything else other than binding to endpoints. And for example, just to show you what I mean by that, is there's a camera manager that I created, a custom camera manager that's attached to the player controller here in here. And this one actually handles targeting. So you can see here, for example, you off this event controller component, just bind to this event on the targeting component added, and then you can just simply just do whatever logic you want to do off of that component and whatever else you need to do, like setting of variables or doing things like that. So the targeting component is actually just targets whatever default target you set up in the event. At runtime or in the actual player controller, you probably want to set up like an actual targeting system, which would target like the actor closest to you. But then all you have to do is just grab this variable targeting component here in the camera manager and just set that actor to whatever you're targeting. But for the default, it's fine. So an example here, we can add an event. We can go into this trigger box. We can add an event, let's say begin play, add the event data here. And the event we want to do is an actor interaction. Now the only caveat thing here is that if you want to do an actor interaction, visibility, transform, and spawn don't require the other actor to have the event controller because the event controller handles the interactions. So if it doesn't have the event controller on the one that you're trying to interact with, the visibility, the transform, and the spawns, they don't care about the controller, so you can just do those to any actors in the world that you want, but the interactions are specifically for ones that are event controlled. So we have the actor data here. So if we add an actor data, and this has various ones here, so we can either add a specific actor in the world via the dropper, or we can just grab a class here. And these are the marker classes. These are just defaults. These are um these are actors that I made just to be markers basically in the world. They are event controlled, so you can trigger events off of them. But for now, for testing purposes, they're just mostly they're markers. There's actual actors here that are the event controlled ones that actually have specific scene components for classifications of other subcomponents that you want to add. But we also have like tags here. So on our interaction data, we can just simply add an event here. We can say what we want to do. So on our event type, we're going to begin play on this trigger box. And what we want to do, we want to grab all the actors of the markers. That's what we do here with the actors by class. And then the event interaction data, what do we want to run on that? So for our event controller on the other here, so this guy's event controller, these markers are going to run this interaction data. So back in this trigger box, we want to say, let's say hover. So we're going to tell the markers to hover. And the hover is basically something like moving up and down, moving left to right, back and forth. So the start hover component here uses an interp speed as default, and it also uses this hover vector. And so the hover vector gets added to whatever the current vector is, or current location here is. So now if we hit play, it should just start hovering. Yep, they're hovering. I mean, it's very slow because of the interp speed. Let's crank that interp speed up a little bit just so we can see it here a little bit better. And of course, all the events you can fine tune the controls, but you can see, yep, there we go. It goes up and down. Now, of course, like this is a hover component, so you can go back into this box controller here, and we can say to instead of up and down, let's just go side to side. So we'll change this so it's X, Y, and then Z for the hover vector. Now it's going right to left. And then, of course, the X is forward and backwards, so you can kind of get that. So what if we wanted to trigger this? Maybe this is a trigger box, so this has a box collision, as you can see. What if we wanted to trigger something, let's say, instead of begin play, so we go back into our events, we say here, on our begin play, let's say we wanted to begin overlap. And so now this will begin overlap, it'll start hovering. So if we walk up to this box, it'll start hovering. Of course, if we leave the box, it does nothing. Of course, there is functionality to do that. So if we go into our box, we can say, we can go into here, and instead we'll collapse this. We'll add a second event, and this second event will be a end overlap. The event data will just be, we'll have to go reset up our actors. So we can actually customize which actors we want to stop, for example. So here, I'm going to use the eyedropper. I will pick two of them here. And what we'll say is with the interaction data, since the hover is just a simple Boolean, we can just simply say end hover. And so now when we start, they'll all hover. When we end, only that one is moving still. And if we want to overlap again, and so simple like that. This project also kind of comes with a targeting component, which is really nice. So what we'll do is I'll move over to this box, this secondary box, and what we'll do is I'll set up an event here. And what we can do is on the begin overlap, we'll probably do the same thing. Now, the camera manager is a custom camera manager that I use, so we'll have to grab this by class. But the camera manager is the one that handles it. The targeting component gets attached to the camera manager, and then the camera manager sets up the actual rotation and the targeting based on the targeting component. So here we can just grab the camera managers. This will say, okay, go ahead on begin play or begin overlap. Look for the camera component in our interaction data here. We can just go ahead and just grab this, and let's go ahead and just start targeting. And here I'm just going to grab one of them that's moving. So I'll grab this one. And I'll set up an end overlap here so we can just go ahead and see that. We'll just go ahead and start targeting. And end targeting is a Boolean. So that component, we just set up the actor interaction here. Let's see. We want to grab our component, our camera manager. There we go. And grab our camera manager, grab our interaction data here, tell it to stop targeting or end targeting on end overlap. Now if we see they're moving, we can go here, they'll be moving. We can go here, we're watching that. The interp speed is a little slow, but you can kind of see that it's targeting back and forth. We end overlap, targeting stops, we can just walk around. We walk over here, targeting stops. If we back into this box, we back into the box, we'll rotate, and our input is locked, and we'll just go back and forth. We can still move though, so you're still fine. But yeah, that's just like, there's a lot more that I added to this. I mean, so there is various ones like, oops, I accidentally clicked on create another event. That's fine. There is other ones here, on, off, lock, unlock, alarm, disalarm, open, close. Those are all very similar components. They're just basically different use cases. So if you had, for example, a light switch, you'd want to use on and off. If you have like a chest, you want to use lock, unlock, or door. If you have, let's say, like a alarm or disalarm, so let's say you have a keypad that you want to set the alarm, you can do that. Open and close, same thing. Start targeting and hovering, it's all those. Teleport is just a simple teleport to a given location. The properties are in there, in the event data here. In the interactions, we can see teleporting. Teleporting is fine. I mean, it works. We have health. We can give health. We can give a health component. We can remove the health component. We can start a sound. We can end the sound. We can give a weapon. For example, this is only a simple weapon. It's based off of the first person template, which is what this project uses. So that's basically it. And then you can remove a component. You can start effect, end effect, which is a Niagara component. Or you can add a counter component to handle countering, increment the counter, decrement the counter. So if the other thing has a counter, for example, you want to set up like a simple gate racing, you walk through certain things and you want to just count up that did the player run through this, you can do that. And then you have an end game actor, which you then trigger, which then you can bind to the counter component. And once it reaches a certain counter, you can then just trigger something. For example, so what I mean by that binding is that if we open up the camera, let's say, for the targeting, just to show you an example of how this would work. So your actor, whatever actor you want to use, right? This does not have a specific actor. All you have to do is add this event controller and bind to whatever endpoints. Now this event controller has a lot of endpoints for all the components. So yeah, it's there. So yeah, you bind to the component added. When it's added, you do something, you set it, set the variable, and then you can bind off of this. Each of these components have various endpoints. So this targeting component has an endpoint of targeting active, which is just a Boolean here. So we can see that once we bind it to here, we can do targeting lock. We can ignore the input branch. If we're locked on, we want to do a targeting update, which does the full the interpolation, and then the control rotation here. It's very simple stuff. And either we clear and invalidate that timer. But that's just the example. So if you wanted to set up a door, for example, for on-off, you'd bind to the on-off, and then when you receive that trigger from the event component, from the other actor's event component on your own, you can do something on the on-off. And that's just basically the gist of it. If you want to add more, for example, on the event controller here, you can open it up. It's very simple stuff here. Your main one is your do interaction. And so these do interactions is where you'll get all these here. And these have run custom methods or custom functions that you can just then customize. So if we wanted to add the counter component, you can see things are like here. They're all up here, and they're pretty well just labeled what they are. I mean, they're update or add or remove, things like that. They're static. There's the static variables for each class of the components. Now, I did run into some issues here. Don't forget to set the default here. I did run into some issues, and debugging that was kind of annoying. Because it doesn't always, because when you're binding, it doesn't always trigger. So, but yeah, you can see all the events here. They're all tied to various components being added. So I have the counter component up here. We can see that there's a notify increment, and then there's notify added, and things like that. And they all follow basically the same thing. If we wanted to say visibility, we can say visibility was added. If we wanted to do the transform, they all follow very similar toggle alarm. Targeting is very simple. We take the interact component that we get passed in, and then we just break it. We just grab whatever we want, and then just add the component. That's basically the gist of it. The project's available on GitHub. Let me know if you used it. Let me know if you created anything with it. If you encountered any bugs or anything like that. But it's a pretty good starter project, I feel like. And if you want to use it, feel free. We'll talk to you later, guys. I'm gonna go work on a game jam, I guess, and I'll probably be posting another video soon. So I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.